When day turns to night, and the moon is most bright, shed the king of you and wear the queen. The 9 realms will open and your magic be free. Hi, my bling. It's your favorite drag witch, Nova Jupiter Jenkins. For those new to the podcast who haven't had a chance to listen to the older episodes, a super quick recap. I'm podcasting, or more accurately spellcasting, from a near infinite library called Kalamudutu, situated in a magical realm that I call the Heath. My alter ego Autum casts a spell every full and new moon that transports him here and transforms him into me. I record this while I person the information desk when I'm not out book hunting. But I still recommend going back and listening to the previous episodes to get caught up on the sitch with this witch. Welcome to the Harvest Moon episode. The month in which the Harvest Moon falls can change depending on which full moon is closest to the autumn equinox. We just passed the equinox, so we're officially into autumn. It's an amazing time of year, both in the mundane realm as well as here in the Heath. The onset of autumn marks the beginning of the dying season, and half the world's descent toward winter. The beautiful reds, yellows, and oranges of the foliage at this time of year are like the burning embers of a dying fire as the summer heat fades away. I know the turning of the leaves in many parts of the mundane realm can be gorgeous, but the colors here in the Heath are beyond. They make the turning of the leaves in the mundane realm look like those fake sepia-toned pictures that tourists take in places that don't have anything else to offer in the way of attractions. And this time of year also means more knitting. During the summer, I like to take a break from knitting. And by break, I mean I only have one project going on at a time. But as the weather begins to turn, I like to get started on a project or two that will come in handy when it gets really cold. Currently, I'm working on a cowl, some gauntlets, a vest, and a blanket. Alright, for story time this moon. As many of you know, there are a number of religions out there that involve the sacrifice or dying of one or more gods or goddesses that help to explain why we have the cold and dark time of the year. Many of those deities get together here at the Heath every year and hold the contest of the dying gods. The contest is hosted by Dionysus the Twice-Born, who was first born when his mother died after she looked upon the full divine glory of his father Zeus. Zeus then had to sew him into his thigh until he was ready to be actually born. And then, of course, his stepmother had the Titans rip him apart as a baby. Brings a whole new meaning to the term baby shower. Thankfully, his heart was saved by Demeter and was put back into Zeus's thigh so he could be reborn again. He pulled the dying as a baby card a little too often, so he only hosts now instead of competing. The first entry in the contest was the only goddess in the competition, Izanami. Ladies first. She of course won extra points for dying during childbirth, as well as for the most maggots, but she did lose points for failing to have her underworld minions drag her squeamish husband back into the underworld, and for having the most petty reason for committing mass murder. When her husband Izanagi put a boulder in the entrance to the underworld to keep her from getting him, she was straight up, okay, I'll just kill 1,000 people a day. Talk about a cold day in hell. Oh, Hugo, no. Go get that one over there. Sorry, folks, the minions are a little bit restless tonight. Okay, next up was the god Tammuz, who won the award for the most dramatic reenactment of being dragged to the underworld by demons, and for leaving the biggest mess. Next up came the Egyptian god Osiris, who was killed by his brother, torn to pieces, put back together by his wife, got all procreative with her, and then died again. He received the award for most complicated death, as well as for procreating while resurrected, but received deductions for dying again shortly after. A bit of a hit-it-and-run situation there. And then came the Norse god Odin, who sacrificed himself to himself, and all for the sake of acquiring knowledge of the deeper mysteries of the universe. He was awarded major points by the librarians who were in attendance, and won the award for the most badass death. Oh, Hugo, it's okay. After Odin was his son Balder, who, like Osiris, scored points in the death by fratricide column. He also received points for being killed while nigh invulnerable, and took home the award for dying a mama's boy. Lastly was the god Baal, who took home the award for the most soap opera death. He invited Death to his dinner party, and Death was insulted by the lack of human flesh and blood to consume, so was going to kill Baal, but instead Baal procreated with a cow, and Death actually killed Baal's baby cow child, while Baal made his way to the underworld at his leisure. After the corpse of the calf was discovered by Baal's sister wife, she killed Death by cutting him in two, burning him, and spreading him around for the birds to eat. Yum yum. Oh, sweet Jesus! I almost forgot the youngest of the dying gods. Jesus, of course, took home the award for Martyr of the Millennium for the second time. He's like the Valentina of the dying gods. Rabid fan base, but not super popular among his more seasoned peers whose spotlight he stole. The Drag Race fans will get that one. Oh, my bling. I'm really starting to get worried. Gerald is still missing. Hopefully you remember Gerald from the first episode. I mean, I know this is a nearly endless library, but ghosts don't normally wander too far from where they were killed. Hugo, stop it! Hey! Sorry about that, folks. Oh my goodness, Hugo. Where was I? Okay. As I was saying, ghosts don't normally wander too far from where they were killed, at least not voluntarily. And Gerald especially isn't the wandering type. Unfortunately, locating spells don't work on ghosts. More prejudice on the part of the designer of the spell. You know, magic in general is geared toward the spark of the life in the living. There is ghost magic, of course, another field of magic related to necromancy. But I don't know a lot about it. I guess I've got some homework to do. Oh, maybe Gulia has seen him. She is the wandering type. I'll see if I can track her down. Okay, for our tarot reading this month, we're going to be using the autumnal spread. This reading should give us a good impression of what we can expect in the season ahead. The first position in the spread is the cold wind that first warns of the ending of summer. The first position in the spread is the cold wind that first warns of the ending of summer. This card tends to get a bad rap, but is really just a messenger for the inevitable. It hints of what is to come during the darkness, so that you can prepare accordingly. The card coming up here is the Sun, reversed. How fitting. This is almost too literal. Reversed, the sun represents pessimism, negative energy, sorrow. Those with seasonal affective disorder are well aware just how negative our thoughts can get when the sun starts to disappear. And in anticipation, our subconscious may send forth those negative thoughts before the first drop of rain or the first leaf starts to fall. Being aware of these thoughts is the first step to coping with them as we head into the darker months. Now the next position is the falling leaf. The card in this position represents the aspects of summer that will not serve you in the months ahead and is best to let fall to the ground and blow away on the cold wind. Now the card here is the Seven Wands, also reversed. When it's upright, this card represents vigilance and working in a steadfast manner, so when it's reversed it signifies negligence and laziness. Basically, this card in this position is saying that sitting on your ass for the dark season is not a good idea. Letting yourself hold on to that unproductive vacation attitude from the summer months will only create a place for the negative thoughts from the last card to gather and stagnate. Next up, we have the Apple. The card in this position represents the abundant and easily plucked joys in your life that will make the coming darkness a little sweeter. The card coming up is the Page of Pentacles. This card represents dedication, productivity, and material gain. This card solidifies the message of the previous card in that it's saying that the key to a sweeter season is to keep busy in a productive, tangible way. Make things that you can use or give as gifts to others. If you don't know how, now is the time to learn a new skill. Alright, the next position is the Scythe. The card in this position represents your best tool for harvesting the crops in your life, or the part of you that holds the strength and key to thriving through the cold months. And here we have the Ace of Swords. For the Scythe, we have the Alpha of the Swords, again with a literal. So the Ace of Swords represents decisiveness, logic, discrimination. But not like discrimination against people, but discriminating in the sense of using a decisive approach to cut away the negative and unhelpful patterns of thought and action to allow a new cycle of intense activity, creativity, and enterprising thinking. Okay, this leads us to the harvest, the bounty that you will reap, following the hard work of the previous card that will sustain you through the winter and beyond. The card coming up is the Empress. This is the Divine Mother. She represents happiness, pleasure, success. These are the rewards of hard work paying off throughout the cold, dark months and what await you if you can keep from getting bogged down by forces within and without that conspire to keep you less than you can be. Also, call your mother. Okay, the next position is the Chaff. This is another position that represents things you should discard, but unlike the falling leaf, the chaff is the unwanted outcome of the work that you put into wielding the scythe. As important as it is to act decisively and make decisions without doubting yourself, it does not mean that mistakes won't be made. And the card in this position represents the consequences of the actions that are best left out of the harvest. We have the Nine of Wands coming up, reversed. Here this card represents adversity, calamity, fear, obstacles. It's all the little things that seem like they're conspiring to keep you down. Like taking a wrong turn when you were trying to avoid a high traffic area on the way home and taking twice as long as if you would have just waited. Or having to redo an article or painting because a bold experiment didn't work out. Take a deep breath and let these moments fall away. Or better yet, take the lesson learned and use it as fertilizer for future endeavors. The next position is the Feast. The dark months can be all productivity and hard work. We do need to squeeze in a celebration or two. Coming up is the Knight of Cups. This is a card of romantic adventure. It's saying to stop and let yourself dream about what you're going to do when the warm weather comes back around, and maybe even give yourself a taste of it in the heart of the dark months. Think about what you really want to get out of this roller coaster we call life. What are the simple, or maybe not so simple pleasures that make the day-to-day worthwhile? Let your imagination run wild. And lastly, we have the pie. This is the dessert made from the dedication and productivity of the Page of Pentacles we saw in the apple position. And here we have the Six of Swords. This is a card of transition and can represent moving from a troubled existence to a more peaceful and stable place. It can also represent a trip, so you may need to pack your bags for those of you who pictured a getaway during the Feast card. For those of you who aren't in a position to get away, there are a lot of ways to create a getaway right at home. It's just a matter of setting aside the space and time, even if just for a few moments. And that's our tarot reading. I hope you found a nugget or two of wisdom that will help you as we begin our descent. That's actually going to do it for this episode for the Harvest Moon, everyone. I've been sensing a bit of resistance as I cast the spell to record this podcast. There was something that prevented us from putting the episode up on time a couple of weeks ago. And I can sense something in the air now. It has me a little worried. Autum might take off from coming here on the new moon, so there may not be another episode until the next full moon. But if you're enjoying the podcast so far, don't forget to share us with a friend or rave about us loudly on public transit. Rate, comment, or subscribe on Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you might find us. You can send me an email to novajj@novajj.net and visit us at novajj.net for show notes and other fun stuff. And just to be clear, that's novajj@novajj.net. And remember, if the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and little Billy is sprouting a tail, Kialnamor the demon may have some splaining to do. Bye.